Good evening, everyone. Amir Shakur, and hey, listen, I appreciate you guys tuning in. A lot of times we have technical difficulties, so we're a little bit behind schedule, but we're gonna get right to the topic tonight, and I don't want to waste a lot of time. Again, I appreciate everyone tuning in. The conversation is very near and dear to me. It's something that I've had to live with for years. And I will suggest, and I will go so far as to throw up a disclaimer that all of the opinions and the views that I'm going to show tonight are not even mine or the channel's, but they're based upon witness testimony, witness information. My disclaimer also suggests that some of the topics, some of the testimony, I should say, is rather controversial. So I want to just warn you guys in advance about it. But I do want to also say the last part of the disclaimer is 3 parts, right? 3 parts is that we are entitled and obligated, I should say, obligated is a better word, to tell the truth. And if that truth means to go ahead and really put the information out in the facts based upon historical information, historical data, then I'm obligated. Some of the people in this video are some people who I know through the community, who I've ran across in the past. A lot of them are no longer with us. Rest in peace, all of them. But for me, again, regardless of whatever connection, be it direct, indirect, my obligation as a journalist and a commentator is to tell the truth, right? So with that being said, I'd like to welcome you guys to Amir Shakur Speaks with their host Amir Shakur, that is TV. And our event, which is the King Conspiracy and where it's at. I find a lot of times when these topics get to the independent media question mark in the sky because the technical difficulties that happen. I'm wondering. So, like I said before, I'm just a little small man on a totem pole, but I don't. Anyway, that being said, let's go ahead and get into the topic. So, by the way, guys, I'd like to welcome Amir Shakur Speaks with your host Amir King 7 Shakur, and that's me. Today we're opening up with a conversation that's been ongoing for many, many years in our community. What is the conversation? Well, it's definitely rather controversial. But before I even say that, I definitely have to proceed with some house cleaning things. So, I'd like to welcome you to the show, which brings the best in urban faith and politics, introduced them from an inspirational perspective. If you have not done so, please like and subscribe. Who is Amir Shakur? I guess that's a great question that I should start answering. Well, I'm a former Huffington Post contributing journalist. I've also written for other periodicals, CNN, I Report, and now I'm happy to be the guest and the host of Amir Shakur Speaks. Over 50,000 viewers, 50,000 views. Last month alone, and we've only been around for less than a year, so appreciate the support. Appreciate our friends out in Canada and the UK who are following us. Shout out to y'all, right? So if you have not done so, please like and subscribe. Tonight's show is sponsored by the Chicago Urban Daily and Digital Air America. And remember, your voice matters, so let's stand up and speak out. I'm opening up the show tonight before we get into the main course with an ode to Black History Month. So let me bring that up. So since it is Black History Month, every show we're discussing a different person and visionary, I should say, or leader in the African American community historically. So the first person who we'd like to go ahead and pay homage to is Marie Van Britton Brown. She was the pioneer of CCTV, y'all. She was an American nurse, and her husband was an electronics technician. And in 1966, did you hear what I said? I said in 1966, they invented an audio-visual home security system, the likes of which we're still using today. In that same year, they applied for the patent for their system, and it was granted 3 years later in 1969. So Marie Van Britton Brown, originally Felton, Britton Felton, I should say, from Manhattan, New York. And, Marie and her husband definitely changed history through their invention. And, the patent was done, like I said, in 1966, 3 years later. And the invention consisted of a door and an electronically controlled lock. And they can watch the peephole covers and the outsides of their house when Marie's husband wasn't around, so the camera could be removed remotely. So, again, we are paying homage to Marie as the inventor of CCTV. All right. So with that being said, thank you for that Black History moment. And wonderful, y'all. Wonderful. So let's go back into our suite. And I want to talk a little bit about what it is. And I'll welcome you guys. If you guys are just watching, you guys can come on the YouTube channel on YouTube itself if you're watching. And you can comment and you can join and participate in the conversation at the Amir Shakur Speaks broadcast channel. And if you want to be a part of the conversation, I definitely welcome and open up the doors for the community to come on. So like and subscribe, y'all. So I'd like to say hello to all of our VIP club members. Hello, Beth. Hello, everyone out there in the World Wide Web. Ramona. Some of the folks who, consistently stay with us month after month, year after year, week after week. And I love it. I love it. I love it. So back to the topic. As we're seeing current events, our topic for motivation, I should say, because I don't want to even just call it a topic, not even just a current event, because this has been going on for years. Martin Luther King Jr. And the controversy is rather ongoing, and we've heard many stories. Some of us have, and a lot of us have, especially from the sense of who Dr. King was. Michael King Jr. is what he was born at, and in January 15th, 1929. For those who don't know, he was assassinated April 4th, 1968. And he was an American civil rights activist and a Baptist minister who was the leader of the civil rights movement from 1955 to his assassination in 1968. He he advanced civil rights for the people of color in the United States through the use of nonviolent civil resistance, um, civil disobedience against the Jim Crow, the racist laws, and the other forms of legalized discrimination of the moment. Some of those themes still exist in a greater or lesser degree today, I must add. But we have to say they definitely predominantly affected 1960s and 50s and 30s and 40s America. Discrimination was the rule of law. And this gentleman, a black church leader, King participated and led marches for the right to vote, for desegregation, the labor laws, and other civil rights to be changed. He oversaw the 1955 Montgomery bus boycott, which he was the first president of the Southern Christian Leadership Conference, a group that's near and dear to me, a group which I actually, as a young minister, cut my teeth out of during my tenure living down south between North Carolina and Atlanta, Georgia. As a matter of fact, a lot of my mentors were generals of Dr. King. So when I talk about these topics, it's not a matter of being braggioso or it's a matter of understanding that a lot of these things I heard secondhand. I wasn't there, but secondhand. So back to Dr. King. He oversaw the 1955 Montgomery bus boycott. And with that in mind, I mean, it was a movement. These movements change history. And, the nonviolent 1960s protest, the March to Selma, I mean, these are questions of legends, things that have been made in movies. We know it for what it is now, for historical moments, but we definitely have a lot to give, a lot to honor to Dr. King. Tonight, as we're discussing Dr. King, I can say for a fact that, his legacy, as pronounced as it is throughout history, there was a lot of controversy. The civil rights movement of the 60s achieved pivotal legislative gains, the ones that I talked about, the Civil Rights Act of 1964, the Voting Rights Act of 1965, and the Fair Housing Act of 1968, right? King was jailed several times. The FBI, the Federal Bureau of Investigation, considered King a radical and made him the object of COINTELPRO. COINTELPRO. Did somebody say what is COINTELPRO? Well, I want to bring that up, and I want to bring it up in a short video. But COINTELPRO, if you can see my graphic here, was the movement that basically followed leadership, mostly black leadership, to stop them from rising amongst the people. And they did a lot of things, shame game campaigns They even went into so far as to, there's allegations of them actually participating in staging assassinations, the likes of which we are mentioning here. The historical information is yet falling out, but the COINTELPRO, I'm gonna share this with you because we will talk about that. It's a little bit more pronounced, but there's other sides of the situation that are not pronounced. Um, if you can read that to a recommend attached item in the given media, this is actually the background from the actual document itself of COINTELPRO. Because it's an older document and it was on a microfiche, it was hard to read. So definitely, it's let me see if I can. There is a feud between the two most prominent black nationalist extremist groups, the Black Panthers and the uh, Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee. That's the SNCC, or SNCC they called it, which was a student level predecessor to the SCLC. According to the ideologists, the difference between the two was that the Panthers were more radical, but it says the difference between the two is that the Panther has the smallest head. This is biologically true. I can't read everything in the script, and we can go on, and I think I'm going to share it, but the information has yet to be released in the fallout. COINTELPRO again was a highly controversial level of government surveillance operation that basically sought to eliminate black leaders and leaders in general who the government felt acted outside of public interest. And I will go so far as to say, I'm going to put that back up. We're going to put that back up. The government of the United States of America cannot say it did not have its hand in the murder or the assassination of Dr. King. Did you hear me? So the controversy is itself the controversy. The release that we had just recently heard. So for those who don't know, there has been information allegedly, let me throw that up, the quotation marks, allegedly, that should be released and should have been released in reference to the King assassination in the FBI files. A promise that our prominent Mr. Donald Trump promised to put up. Me, not so sure. But the COINTELPRO piece. I'm gonna go so far as to suggest that what it is was actually in existence. It still existed today. Let me show up. I want to go to a video about it. I think it's very important that we documentate this correctly. So let's go to a live video, and it tells a little bit about the COINTELPRO piece and what it was, because I think it's very important that we highlight these things from the standpoint of historical facts and historical data. So let me pull that up and just bear with me a minute. All right. Hopefully you can see my screen. I'm gonna remove it, and so this is the release of the latest information of the COINTELPRO piece. And this video highlights Donald J. Trump's promise to release the file. So let's look at it, play a little bit about it, and see what's going on.
A 250,000 pages of records related to the surveillance of Martin Luther King Jr. are now public after a controversial move from the Trump administration.
The digital document dump has been under a court-imposed seal since 1977, when the FBI first got the Records and National Archives Records Administration.
Among the documents are leads the FBI received after King's assassination. There are also details of the CIA's fixation on King's pivot to international anti-war and anti-poverty movements in the years before he was killed.
And these documents have been released despite opposition from King's two living children. They say their father's killing has been a captivating public curiosity for decades, but the pair emphasized the personal nature of the matter and urged that the files, quote, be viewed within their full historical context.
So joining us now to talk about the release is Chief Legal Analyst Conley Frodes, who also mentioned this release is going to take years to get done. But let's start here. Why do you believe the judge didn't respect the family's request? Because it's just a request. There's no legal mandate saying they have to abide by it, right?
100%. Originally, you're requesting these documents are sealed. Sealed for 2027 was the original time frame. The judge could have denied the government's request, could have respected the family's wishes. I mean, and typically, a judge would lean on the family to being the closest person to the individual that was connected to these documents. And so it was an unfortunate step, I think, to something that I wasn't anticipating or expecting. Yes, I anticipated the request by the Trump administration because President Trump signed the executive order. So that's something that I knew was down the road coming, but I knew they still had to go in front of a judge. And I know they still had to make a request. And you go back, why did we seal these originally? We didn't want outrage. We didn't want, the pushback and blowback. Yeah, you want transparency, but do you want this to be released? And then the question, I guess, is why? I mean, you're talking about 6,000 documents, 230,000 pages. This is a lot of information that is being released, and it will take a long time to get out, to be fully vetted, to be fully reviewed, to ensure to see what was in there. But as the family is requesting, at least the two main family is two children, not the niece that Department of Justice cited, saying that she was thankful that they released it, but Bernice and his son, MLK Jr, they both rejected this request and did not want this to occur. So I was confused on why the judge didn't honor that. Typically with something like this, the judge would say, you know what, the family doesn't want it. I want to take that while I'm weighing the balance and an attempt to try to honor the family's wishes.
So while we're looking at this video, I do want to stress and emphasize that the documents that are being discussed in this particular interview, in this report, they contain exclusive details from the FBI's Merkin investigation, which is related to the CIA records, the state document files regarding the information about the assassination from James O. Ray, the assassin of Dr. King, alleged assassin. The many documents focus on intense surveillance of Dr. King by federal authorities. And the controversy is the release proceeded despite objections from King's family members. Bernice King, who is the current head of the King Foundation. The King Center is actually what it's called, down in Atlanta, Georgia. And, they're objecting to and raising concerns about the potential misuse of the information and the damage to Dr. King's legacy. Some of that stuff we'll get into as far as historical context. But let me go ahead and just finish playing that. I just thought it was important to highlight the information a little bit more thoroughly.
What are we expected to learn from this? I mean, are we thinking like a smoking gun? Is there a link to some government wrongdoing? What are we expected
I mean, the link to the government wrongdoing is clearly on his face. I mean, I think that Trump's attempt to be transparent and his attempt to drain the swamp and all the statements that he made when he was running, this would go hand in hand with the transparency aspect of it. Now, I'm not a conspiracy theorist at all. I know that there are folks that are saying, look, that Trump is attempting to use this to take attention away from the other files that folks want to see, the Epstein files, and saying, well, here goes these files that you can look at. So that's probably a part of the process that's occurring. We want to get these out there and ensure that folks have an opportunity to see this while not asking and communicating about these other files.
All right. So let's say for hypothetical information, Dr. King was not someone who was, he was a highly controversial figure. And I must say that with all due respect, During his lifetime, I mean, he faced multiple government surveillance accusations, including being a communist, including criticism for his anti-war position, nonviolent tactics, his relevant. There was information about multiple allegations of sexual misconduct, extramarital affairs with multiple women. These things are complicating and have complicated his legacy. Was he a man? He was a man like none other. But the understanding is that, with anyone, me, you, historical figure is a little bit different because obviously these people were human. They had to live their lives. But, what comes with the bigger than life, the speeches and the moral platitudes and the things that are, what we see, the I Have a Dream speeches, this was a man, he had a complicated legacy, so they don't want to further complicate his legacy, which I agree with a small percent, but then a part of me says that the public has the right to know, the community and the people want to know. So we have to be able to get into those things, and we have to talk about what it is, So, by the way, I will say that if you're just joining us, we are breaking down the Martin Luther King Jr. conspiracy. Some of the things we know about the FBI surveillance, a lot of things, some of the things in a short amount of time that I have to throw down with you is it's going to be some new information and some things that I know about for a while. But, again, as we're talking about the legacy of Dr. King, I think it's very important to really say that, any post-humanist revelations, including extramarital affairs, plagiarism in his editorial thesis, allegations of moral failings, including affairs, these things are things that we can't control because they're outside of our circle of influence. That this man, he lived a real life. He was a real person. He was a real human being. As a matter of fact, I had the honor of working with the King family down in Atlanta, Georgia, including Christine King, who worked down at Spelman University in Atlanta, Georgia, for years and years, even up until her death. And she, when I was during my time at the Southern Christian Youth Conference, I had the chance to meet her and sit down next to her and working with the family, including her Dr. King's son. So these are people who I actually have had relationships with, associations with, know a little bit about it, know a little bit about from sitting around the tables of the generals of Dr. King. What we're talking about tonight is the conspiracy. This is not the feel-good stuff that you see. It's not the big I Have a Dream speeches, and yet it's still those things exist, right? But what we are talking about is the FBI surveillance and harassment, things of that nature, which people know about. We've heard about that. We've heard about Operation COINTELPRO. The FBI under J. Edgar Hoover, the gentleman who you see in this picture, deemed King a communist threat, wiretapping and attempted to blackmail him into silence or even suicide. The documents and the testimonies that have revealed a lot of these things, including the FBI files, which some suggested had more serious unproven misconduct. Those stories are divided. Researchers are divided on the validity of these things. I mean, COINTELPRO was a operation that sought to morally demoralize, I should say, a lot of the people. And how do you do it? You attack your opposition through attacking their credibility, right? Attacking their name, attacking what it is, attacking who they are. If you're just joining, we are talking about the King conspiracy, what it is, and why for a lot of people, there's a lot of untapped information. In his time, Dr. King was viewed by many, including politicians, some white Americans, as too radical. Even in the Black community, Dr. King, and here's the thing I want you guys to know, he wasn't the popular choice for America. He was very unpopular up until the point of his death. I mean, the 1960s America viewed folks like Malcolm X and the Panthers as the people's movement, not Dr. King's movement. They felt that it was too weak. It was too, it was radical by the white community. The Blacks saw it as not radical enough. They chose the more radical militant movements, especially regarding, things like when it came to Dr. King's outspoken opposition to the Vietnam War, which, goes into a whole nother area. And going back to, that day at the Lorraine Motel when he was assassinated, we're going to get into that. While James Earl Ray pleaded guilty to killing King, some, including the members of the King family, believe that the broader government conspiracy, including the government of the United States of America, had his hand in the assassination. I want to come back to this picture because I think this picture is very important and in reference to what it is. So many years ago, as one of the young ministers in the Southern Christian Leadership Conference, again, I had the opportunity to sit around some of these folks. And, I do know that a lot of what they said, I think that if a movie were to be wrote about it, it would not be far from reproach, and so, no, and to correct you, Beth, Dr. King was very popular in the sense of being known, but his movement was not popular. Again, the popular movement of the moment in the Black community, the popular movement was the militant movement of the Black Panthers and the folks of that nature. I want to go and pull up a share screen video. We want to pull that up, and it really talks about more or less the FBI piece and the controversy. So let's talk a little bit about that. And I think it's very important that we notate what it is and why is it that this conspiracy, we feel like this conspiracy went all the way up into the government of the United States of America, without a doubt. The government cannot say it did not have its hand in assassinating, in the assassination of Dr. King.
Happy to join with you today in what will go down in history as the greatest demonstration for freedom in the history of our nation.
Martin Luther King Jr. was known for his contributions to the American Civil Rights Movement and his role as a Christian minister. But did you know that even this most iconic figure had a dark side, one that bordered on criminal acts? Martin Luther King Jr. made headlines around the world when he spoke of having a dream whereby people were judged for the content of their character. But what exactly was the content of his? From rumors of deception, to extramarital affairs, to gender-based violence, to being the accomplice to a sexual crime. King's history is not all it would seem. One of the policies King was most known for was his stance on nonviolence, regardless of how he was met, be it with violence, harassment, or prejudice. King maintained that there should never be violent retaliation. But as the years have passed, details have emerged that this was not always the case. According to allegations, King had a history of violence against an already marginalized group, that of women. Although King was married to Coretta Scott, his infidelity was well known. Rumors suggested that he had up to 45 mistresses across the United States, and that he regularly had intercourse with sex workers and groupies. As for how he would pay these sex workers, he would allegedly use the funds from his organization, the Southern Christian Leadership Conference. It was this very organization that was claimed to have taken part in one of the most violent acts imaginable, an act that King himself had witnessed. In the early 1960s, the FBI began to surveil King, using any means necessary to further their vendetta against him. This included secret audio recordings, spying, and anything that would ensure they could obtain information on what he was doing. In 2017, a 20-page document was declassified and published. The document was from March 1968, just a few weeks before King's assassination, and detailed how King and several Southern Christian Leadership Conference officials checked into a Washington, D.C. Willard hotel. With them were several women, which they referred to as parishioners. The group went up to King's hotel room, and in this hotel room, they were allegedly recorded discussing various sexual acts that each woman would be required to perform. In the report, some were described as unnatural acts. At the time, the FBI was intent on painting out any sexual proclivities as degeneracy and would use this kind of language to further that intent. The document stated that one of the parishioners objected to the act and that King's colleague, Reverend Logan Kearse, then forcibly raped the woman. While the rape occurred, it is said that King watched, laughed, and even offered advice on how to perform the act correctly. As Hoover and the FBI had a well-known vendetta against King, some allegations in the report cannot be taken as entirely reliable. However,
find a Planet Fitness near you and get
Sorry about the technical difficulty with the clip. And so, with that being said, we have an obligation to tell the truth about our leaders. We have an obligation to talk about, these folks who are human. JFK and many, many others throughout history were not perfect. These were not perfect men. And in his time, it was viewed by many as too radical. I can't overemphasize that enough. Or if I'm underemphasizing this, that's not good as well, because we have an obligation to tell the truth about history, especially when it regards things like Dr. King. These allegations, have not been substantiated. I will say that one of the things, and I don't have the clip, and I wish I had it, was Dr. King's outspoken opposition to the Vietnam War. And I think that, and many historians believe, that is what led to Dr. King's demise, when he spoke out against the Vietnam War. And he was called down to D.C. according to the record. He was called down to D.C. by J. Edgar Hoover at that point, who had been, all up until that point, had still been running the COINTELPRO operation against him, recordings in private of Dr. King, things of intimate nature, so on and so forth. But he said that, according to the allegations, Dr. King, you need to get back to speaking things about the Negro Civil Rights Movement and stay away from that Vietnam question. But then he played the tapes in Dr. King in private, and he said, hey, if you continue down this road, we have no choice, but we're obligated to play these tapes. And that is part of the conspiracy legacy. It's more of a theory with historical documented facts because of the existence of Operation COINTELPRO. James Earl Ray, I didn't spend a lot of time on the James Earl Ray piece, but again, the COINTELPRO piece was very, very real, right? So the other part that I wanted to share with you guys is it wasn't, the opposition just didn't come from the white community or racist in America at that point in time, but the operation came from folks who were internally within Dr. King's camp. Want to play a little bit about that for you as well. And this comes from someone who I had the opportunity to meet, to know, and I think that with his word, it had a little bit more merit. So the video I'm getting ready to show you is from civil rights activist and comedian Dick Gregory, who was instrumental in investigating the assassination of Dr. King at the Lorraine Motel. This piece, right? He was instrumental in the investigation of that, and he worked alongside attorney Mark Lane. If you don't know who that is, look it up. He's Googleable or researchable, I should say. And, you know, they challenged the official narrative of James Earl Ray's killing, spending years on researching the evidence in reference to the theories. Mr. Parks was a prominent fixture, I believe, and I'll bring that up. There were people around Dr. King. When I say Mr. Parks, I'll explain who that is. But there were people around Dr. King who, for whatever reason, if there were government agents, if there were people who they were there to participate in his demise. And what I need you to hear me say when I say this is, folks that are a few of the folks in this video here were believed to have been part of that demise. Dr. King's, for the record, the allegations, and when I say allegations, I think we're past allegations. For the record, Dr. King's photographer, I believe it's Gordon Parks, but don't correct me, I'll get the correct information, was a known FBI agent, FBI informant. So the video that I'm about to play, just remember this picture. Want to come back to the share screen. The video is referenced to this picture, and it's what Dick Gregory had to say. So let's go ahead and share that. And I want you guys to really pay attention to this because I think it is very important to the conversation. One second while I pull up the video.
Came by to get King to take him to dinner. And 30 years later at a press conference, he slipped because God do baffle your mind sometimes. You look. Some of the activities are geared especially for the young who did not have a chance to get the feel or to know what the civil rights movement actually was about. Even as they marched, now they could have stopped in a hotel, but when you think about marching from Memphis to Jackson or Jackson to Memphis, that was a hotel. You stayed in churches, you stayed in people's homes, and that's how we got over, that's how we got through. The struggle was a spiritual struggle. You couldn't pay people to do what we had to do. You couldn't pay people to stand before mad dogs and fire hoses and billy clubs and cattle prods. It was strictly a spiritual and moral movement. So we wanted that dimension to be in the pilgrimage to Memphis. We will revisit the mountaintop speech site. That's the Mason's Temple, where Dr. King made his last address, which he almost didn't make, because the night that we were having that rally, there were tornado warnings, and he was behind on the Poor People's Campaign. And he said, you guys go on over and have the rally. I want to stay at the motel and work on the Poor People's Campaign.
By the way, the gentleman here is Reverend Billy Childs out of Chicago, a King associate. And he was speaking, what he's doing is, just to provide context, he's speaking here about the day of the Lorraine Motel. So the picture that you saw that we see in history was taken after Dr. King was murdered. It wasn't a picture, or it was a little bit different than what happened. So let's let him speak about it, and I want to come back to this.
Hey, when we got there and Dr. Abernathy walked in and Jesse Jackson walked in and I walked in and others, people started clapping because they thought Martin was behind us. And so Ralph Preacher said to him, this is not our crowd. And he went to the phone and called Dr. King and said, any of the marches that we had in those days, you have an opportunity to bring the children and bring the family and march with us. And when I finished sharing with them the last hour of Dr. King's life, I hurried. But that gave me the wonderful privilege of spending the last hour on earth. 3 preachers in a room, Abernathy, King, and Kyle. And we spent that last hour together in room 306 at the Lorraine Motel. The press is always curious, and writers, what went on? What did you talk about? I said, we just talk preacher talk. What preachers talk about when they get together.
Y'all pay real attention to what you're fixing to hear now.
About 5:45, we walked on the balcony, and he was talking to people in the courtyard. He stood here and I stood there. Only as I moved away, so we could have a clear shot, the shot rang out.
Thank you.
I turned around and then I back on the back.
So that you hear that. So I want to go back and I'm going to play that again. So Billy Kyle, again, he was a Chicago associate of Dr. King. He was explaining in a narrative, and you guys can research this. Don't take my word on it. It's there. This was Dick Gregory's. The first time I heard it, it was from Dick Gregory's narrative. But it was Billy Kyle saying that, when they moved away so he could have a clear shot, then the shot rang out. Was it Freudian flips? Yeah, I don't know. Let's play that again. So I want to go back to that, and bear with me. Let you guys hear it, and here we go.
So we could have a clear shot. The shot rang out.
Thank you.
So we could have a clear shot. He stood here and I stood there. Only as I moved away, so we could have a clear shot, the shot rang out.
Thank you.
I turned around and then I stood back on the back.
So, what is it, y'all? What is that? So, according to Dick Gregory, in his involvement, he believed that the official account of the assassination was flawed. Gregory believed that, and Gregory again, and the attorney, Mark Lane, conducted a rather interesting investigation, and I would have to do a part 2 to follow up about this. But it also in his narrative, Dick Gregory was saying that this video that shows Reverend King, Dr. Abernathy, Jesse Jackson, so on and so forth, So Dr. King, according to the investigation, was not supposed to be the only one assassinated that night or that day or that afternoon. Dr. Abernathy was, and what the question was and what was said during this investigation was the whole assassination was flawed, and it was not supposed to just be Dr. King. So according to the narrative, and this came from other witness statements, at the Lorraine Motel, the motel where Dr. King was assassinated on April 1st, 1968. It was a prominent Black-owned business in Memphis. It's now part of the National Civil Rights Museum, which preserves the site of the tragedy. But Gregory's efforts, including his work with the legal counsel, ensured that questions regarding the full truth of the King assassination were continued to be raised. So what they said were that the folks who are wearing ties, pay attention to this, the folks who are wearing the ties were supposed to be legitimately assassinated. And the folks who were working with the government were told not to wear ties. That way, the assassins could have a clear shot and know who was who, the ties. So Reverend Kyle's account, questionable as it is, was it a Freudian slip? We don't know. I don't know. Who knows? There's no way of knowing. These people a lot of them are gone, unless some substantial evidence comes out to justify. But if that is the case, if we're studying this picture, the folks with the ties on, Dr. Abernathy, the one to the further right of Dr. King himself had the ties on, so definitely marked for assassination by the shooters, not just one, okay, not just James Earl Ray, but multiple. It was shown in the report that there were multiple shooters. But that means that Reverend Jackson here and this other gentleman, we don't see ties on. So according to the allegations, these are serious allegations. I didn't say it, but they were part of the FBI, and they were part of the conspiracy, saying that they were paid informants, and the only reason why the shooters knew who to shoot was because they didn't have the ties on. So they were going to dinner. They had been together many, many times in the past. I can say for a fact that Reverend Jackson, I know through a lot of pictures, I did not see him wear ties a lot, but, is a question mark in the sky? I would say yes. Notate that picture, y'all. Look at that picture. Study that picture. The Lorraine Motel, again, the motel where Dr. King was assassinated on April 4th, 1968, was a prominent Black-owned business. And right now, it's part of the National Museum. Want to hear it again? Let's play that again. Maybe we shouldn't, or maybe we should. Let's see. So Dr. Kyle's passed away, and definitely am very familiar with who he is, and it's the question mark for me, and it has to go. It has to be answered. I'm wondering if it's in our files from the FBI. I'm wondering if the folks who you see in this picture were paid FBI informants. We know that Gordon Parks was, and I'll show you that person's picture. Let me play a little bit of that real quick and play that one last time so you guys can hear it.
Thank you. Turn around and then Abernathy, King, and Kyle. And we spent that last hour together in room 306 at the Lorraine Motel. The press is always curious, and writers, what went on? What did you talk about? I said, we just talked preacher talk. What preachers talk about when they get together?
Yo, pay
Revivals and all
what
that.
you fixing to hear now.
About 5:45, we walked on the balcony, and he was talking to people in the courtyard. He stood here and I stood there. Only as I moved away, so we could have a clear shot, the shot rang out. Thank you. I turned around and then announced him back on the back.
So, going back to this picture, very, very, very controversial for me to even look at it. You know, does that mean that these people were part of the conspiracy? There hasn't been any official notation. What we know about is we know about the FBI surveillance and harassment under J. Edgar Hoover, which deemed King a communist threat, wiretapping him, attempting to blackmail him into silence or suicide. You know, we know about those things. So what we have to do is we have to go back and we have to look at the historical narrative. And I'm in a different space on this. I'm in disagreement with the King family. And I say that the information should be released. I should put a disclaimer because we do know that there will be information that will be shared that people don't want to know. Will it affect the legacy of Dr. King? I don't think so. I question that. Dick Gregory's efforts, including his work with the legal counsel, ensured that the questions regarding the truth of Dr. King's assassination will continue to be addressed to this day. Did the government have a legitimate part in the controversy of Dr. King? Did they play their role? Yes. Most historians I believe they did. In 2026 America, do we raise concerns about the information and damage to his legacy? I say let the historical record flow. I say let the files go out and let them go to the public. Let the National Archives and the Records Administration release the information. The public needs this information. And even though some of the assessments may not be true, what are the things that are true? Because right now we're leaving it for controversy to exist, which it has. We know Dr. King was a highly controversial figure during his government lifetime, with the communist accusations, with the criticism for the anti-war stances, at times the nonviolent tactics. We know about that. But we also know about this. Operation COINTELPRO and how real it was. So I say, the final analysis is yours. I say that history will tell the correct narrative. I say that this man's legacy will be preserved throughout history because we know him as the I Have a Dream speech. And please do not minimize Dr. King's legacy to I Have a Dream. Let's stop doing that because it's so much bigger than that. He talked about economic rights, balancing economic. We don't hear about those things. It's just a lot of whitewashing of history. And here's the question of the hour that I'm going to leave you guys with. This is the question of the hour. When we release these documents, or these documents are finally released, including the information that is in question now. Will you change your mind about who Dr. King was? You know, despite objections from the family members and including Bernice, raising concerns about the misuse of the information and damage to the legacy, will it change your mind? There is over 230,000 documents that the information has been released by the Trump administration. Why? We're not sure. But it includes the informant reports, the surveillance, including information on James Earl Ray, who said it wasn't him. He maintained it wasn't him. You know, COINTELPRO, y'all, right? COINTELPRO. Research that, look it up. I'm going to say, without a shadow of a doubt, these controversies often highlight the disparity between idealized figures and iconic figures, often being remembered for the complex, deeply controversial, highly criticized at the point, but regarded by history as the man who this person is. And he was targeted by the government during his lifetime, right? It will not change my mind about him. Let the files be shown. This is why friends are valuable. Yeah, I mean, you know, true friends, I don't use friends, I use associates, but going back into who Dr. King is and his legacy, it is pivotal. It is primary. I'm going to use the word primary. Let's say primary. It's very important that the American community, the American public know, and that we continue to understand these things for what they're worth. The last question of the hour: do these things still exist in 2026 America? COINTELPRO operations. Well, I believe that they do, and if they're not, they've been reactivated. But I will say for a fact that history will revere Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. as the American civil rights activist and Baptist minister, and who was the leader of the civil rights movement in a time in America where we needed him, until his assassination in the late 60s or 1968. He advanced the civil rights for colored people, black people in the United States. And it definitely, this movement was repeated throughout the world, right? Civil disobedience against Jim Crow, against legalized discrimination, against racism. You know, he wasn't an ordinary man, y'all. But we will uphold him, uphold his legacy, and continue to fight for it. Me being a direct prodigy of this legacy, I can say for a fact, without a doubt, my energy is there. I hope y'all's are too. I want to thank y'all for joining this Amir Shakur Speaks. I want to thank y'all for the stream. I want to thank y'all for watching. If you get to share it, please share it. Please follow me. If you have any questions about this topic, please feel free to share. And I guess I'll leave with a tip. And that tip is every important event. Let me give you another one. Everything we do echoes in eternity. Right? More times than not, outside influences pay provocateurs to come against, conspire against our leaders. It happens time and time again. Unfortunately, our own people in our culture can't see the wool being put over their eyes. Wake up, tribes, standing together. Oh, that's a remarkable statement. Thank you. Thank you. Great streaming. Thank you. Thank you for that. 1968 was an incredible year. Thank you for that. I'm going to leave with this one. It will not change my mind about him. And listen, y'all. Thank y'all for watching. Please share your thoughts, share the stream, and let's continue to fight for justice. Let's continue to fight for the legacy of these torchbearers. And let's make sure that history does not treat them wrong. It is our obligation to uphold them. That's all I'm saying. Thank you for watching Amir Shakur Speaks.